Hello, welcome to Teeing Off Podcast. I'm RJ McCullough. The United States pulled off a pretty ridiculous victory over the weekend at the President's Cup, but it was pretty lopsided the whole time. It actually wasn't that interesting, to be honest with you, but the crowds were really good. The chants were really good. See, woo, shaking that ass, shaking that ass. Doesn't get much better than that. That was really good. I loved that. Tiger looks like he has a new girlfriend. Just looking it up here. Her name is Erica Herman, 33. She was spotted walking alongside Woods at the President's Cup. I don't know though. Just looking at the pictures, they don't really seem like a couple. I don't know. Tiger's past couple girlfriends have had a certain type of look to them, and this lady, although she looks like a nice girl, doesn't quite fit that Tiger look. Sort of beating around the bush here. I think you get what I mean. So moving on. This year with my podcast, as the season starts up at the Safeway Open this year. Again, starting the season, I'm going to actually change up the format of the podcast a bit this year. Last season, I was just kind of going over the last week's tournament and then news and notes from around the golf world and then previewing the upcoming tournament. This year, I think going to change it up a little bit, do a little less of last week's tournament, a little less of the news, kind of focus more on this week's tournament, but in the vein of daily fantasy sports, specifically DraftKings. So if you're not into DraftKings or DraftKings golf, you can pretty much tune out after the first few minutes of every podcast because I'm going to be going pretty in-depth into DraftKings and the field for each week, players I like, who you should pick, strategies, things like that. So without further ado, this week's tournament to kick off the year, the 2018, yeah, it sounds a little weird, 2018 Safeway Open. Silverado Resort and Spa, the North Course, which is 7,166 yards, a par 72. That will play host to the Safeway Open once again this year. The course is in Napa Valley. The property began as the estate of a Civil War general and later a U.S. Senator from California. But then in the 60s, it was converted with the designs from Robert Trent Jones. He built two 18-hole courses. So there's a little bit of history. Last year, Brendan Steele emerged with the victory. Yeah, he closed with 3 straight birdies on the final day. He got a 1-stroke victory over Patton Kazire. Brendan overcame a 4-shot deficit entering the final round, and he had a nice birdie stretch down the stretch and defeated Patton Kazire by 1 stroke. So that was last year. This year, what are we looking at? We got a field of 135 players. A lot of guys haven't played in a little while because the playoffs have been on, the President's Cup. Of course, if you didn't qualify for certain playoff events, you wouldn't be able to play. And there weren't really many, unless you want to play on the European Tour or you're one of the guys that had to get their tour card. There haven't been that many outlets to play in the last month or two. Definitely the last month. So there's a field of 135 players, not that many big-name players, but we got 2 guys coming over from the President's Cup, Phil Mickelson from the U.S. side and Emiliano Grillo from the international side. Phil played here last year. I think he likes Napa. Amy, his wife, apparently likes Napa as well. I think Phil, getting a little older now, he wants to get a bit of a leg up on the FedEx Cup schedule and points and stuff. He knows he's in good form right now, so just kind of keep it going and then take a little break. I don't mind the move for Mickelson. Sangmoon Bae returns to the PGA Tour. He played one event, one tune-up event. He missed the cut, but he was on the international squad of the President's Cup a few years ago. He won a tournament on the PGA Tour. He was really putting his name into the echelon of PGA Tour golfers, sort of on the long lights of like a Siwoo Kim this year, a guy that regularly up at the top of the leaderboard, can win some big tournaments. Maybe not the most consistent, but still young, really developing into one of the top tier guys in the game. But he is also from South Korea, same as Siwoo Kim, so he had to do mandatory military and was not on the PGA Tour for a few years. So he returns to the PGA Tour this week. I'm not going to have too much expectations on him as his first event back, but it would be nice to see him do well, have a good season. It's always a little bit unfortunate when guys have to do things like that, leave their job, leave what they love to go do a military or go do anything that's really not what they want to do. So good to have him back. Hopefully he returns to form quite quickly. Maverick McNeely, the former #1 world amateur, he is making his professional debut this week as well. Jamie Sedlowski's in the field. He's a former long drive championship winner. So he absolutely mashes the ball, but he decided maybe a year or two, so let's say 2 years ago, let's say, that he wanted to tone down the long drives and actually focus on real golf, see if he can make a career out of it. He's made a few starts, hasn't fared well, but a guy to watch, definitely if you're in Napa and you're taking in this event, he'd be a really good guy to follow. And one more big name that's there this week, John Daly's teeing it up. Not many expectations, but hey, anytime you see Big John out there, kind of got to go for it. So those are the headliners. In terms of so I'll get in a little bit to the DraftKings stuff now. In terms of the stats that I'm going to look at this week for the Safeway, as I mentioned with Silverado, not that long of a course. It's a par 72. It does provide a lot of birdies, a lot of scoring opportunities. So, looking at the tournament history, what's worked well, if you go to fantasynational.com, they have a really good, and this isn't an ad, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. They have a really good drop-down menu where you can sort pretty much anything, make the stat model the way you would like it, and you can look at tournament history, recent results, past course conditions, all that. Kind of get a feeling for what kind of a player, what kind of game is going to do well this week. I like to look back and read a bunch of things, look at generally just leaderboards, look at the first look on the PGA Tour at the upcoming week, read articles, anything you can get your hands on that'll just kind of give you an idea as to the way the course is playing or the type of player that particular tournament bodes well for. So the main couple stats that I'm really looking at this week, with it being a low scoring event, I'm going to heavily weight birdies. I'm going to give a lot of weight to strokes gain approach. That's something that's fared well for those that have finished well in this tournament in the past on this venue. And good drives. It isn't a very long course. There are a lot of birdies, but the rough's pretty long, and the fairways are actually pretty tough to hit. So as long as you can hit the fairways, you have a lot of chances to get the green. So a good drive is drives that have hit the fairway or those that miss the fairway. If you do hit a green in regulation with your approach shot, but you've missed the fairway, that counts as a good drive too. So those are my three main, I guess you could make it 4 DraftKings points. I always like to weight that into, just get an idea of the guys that do put up the type of game that is good for DraftKings. I mean, you can have 2 guys that shoot even par. If one guy gets 18 pars and another guy gets 9 birdies and 9 bogeys, the guy that gets 9 birdies and 9 bogeys is going to get you a ton more DraftKings points than the guy that gets 18 pars. So it's once in a while, if you're stuck between guys, that can kind of help you out. So those are the 4 big categories. I'm also going to look at a few kind of minor things. Strokes gained par 5. There's 4 par 5s on this course, so a lot of times you see par 70s and par 71s where guys only have 2 or 3 opportunities at par 5s. So this week they have 4. So it's going to be 16 par 5s over the course of the week. Guys that bode well on those par 5s can make up 10 strokes on the field or 10 strokes in general. So I like strokes gained par 5 as a bit of a minor stat. Strokes gained putting. Putting's been important here as well. It's PGA Tour, of course, it's important. Bogey avoidance and driving distance. Seeing those things have a bit of a not necessarily transformative impact on the field, but those that have historically done well at this course, on this event, have paired some of those statistics with their finishes. So that's what I pumped into my stat model with scoring relative to par as easy because this tournament has recently been pretty easy. I looked at last 24 rounds, last 12 rounds, last 8 rounds. The one that I found most consistent for what I was looking at, last 12 rounds. So basically last 3 tournaments the guys have played in. So I sorted that. Got my list of guys that I like. Again, this is on Fantasy National that I'm doing this. There's many websites that you can use for this sort of thing, but the one I like is Fantasy National. So once I plugged that in, I went through every player in the field trying to look at. I looked at the recent form, looked at their stats ranks by the stats categories that I plugged in. I looked at their tournament history, and then if there's anything else that jumped out. So after doing that, I narrowed the field down from 135 players into 38 guys I like, and I put them into 4 tiers. And this is based on DraftKings salaries. So the guys that have double-digit salaries, over 10,000, there was 4 of them. There's 3 of them that I like. Tony Finau, Webb Simpson, and Phil Mickelson. Don't really like Zach Johnson this week at that price. Then there's the top tier of guys from 9,900 down to 8,000. There's 17 of those guys. I like 10 of them. From 8,000 to 7,000, sort of mid-tier. There's 58 guys. I like 19 of them. Sorry, let me rephrase. 15 of them. And then the final, there's 54 guys under $7,000 this week, and I like 8 of them. So I'm going to go through all of those and then give you my favorites for each tier and my optimal lineup for this week. So, top tier, double digits. My number 1 guy in this tier, there's 3 guys that I like out of the 4. Number 1 would be Tony Finau. I mean, he is at the top, so I don't usually like to go with a guy you have to spend $11,500. That's a big chunk of your $50,000 allotment, but he is 6th overall in my stats category. He's 1st in strokes gained, par 5, 2nd in DraftKings points, 4th in birdies in the field. In this tournament, he, in the last couple of years, a 26th, a 32nd, and a 12th. So not exactly tearing the course up, but he has consistently been making cuts and top 30 finishes. His recent form is, I would say, the best in the field as well. 7th, 65th, and 54th in his last 4 events, but he did make it pretty far in the playoffs. So he was playing in events with much better players and still has good form. The second guy I like in that, as I mentioned, Webb Simpson and Phil Mickelson are the other 2 in that tier that I do like. I would rank the Webb Simpson 2nd and Mickelson 3rd. I'm not going to play Mickelson this week just because at 11,000, it's a little much. I don't see him winning, but coming off a good President's Cup, he's 17th overall on my stats. Just a little out of the price range for me, but Webb Simpson I'll consider. He's 1st overall in my stats rankings, 1st in DraftKings points, 1st in birdies, 1st in strokes gained putting, 3rd in bogey avoidance in the field. Good recent form, 13th, 9th, 75th, and 6th his last 4 events. Tournament history, though, he's missed the cut his only 2 times playing here. So that's sort of where I fall off a bit with him. Him and Tony Finau, I was going back and forth. Who's my top guy? I went with Finau. Can't really go wrong with Webb. So that's the top tier, like double digits top tier. Top tier of under double digits, so top tier under 10,000. There are 17 guys in that tier. I like 10. So in order of salary, at 9,700, I like Ryan Moore. I like Kevin Na at 9,400. Keegan Bradley at 9,300. I like Lucas Glover at 9,100. Brendan Steele, 9,000. At 8,900, I like Ches Reavie. Martin Laird at 86. Emiliano Grillo at 85. And Harold Varner and Harris English are at 8,000. My top guy in this category, again, that's under 10,000 but over 8,000, would be Kevin Na. Kevin, he's 19th in my field in the stats, but 6th in stroke gained approach, which is important this week, and 14th in DraftKings points. Again, that's important this week. His tournament history is really what sets him apart here, though. 7th, 2nd, and 3rd, by far the best tournament history of anyone in the field. And his recent form, not bad either. 53rd, 6th, 29th, and 4th. So I like him in this tier. My second favorite in this tier would be Lucas Glover. He's at 9,100, 12th overall in the stats, but 10th in good drives, 14th in strokes gained approach, 12th, 30th, 40th, and 28th his last 4 starts. So he's playing pretty well. He's had some recent playing. What I don't like, though, his tournament history. Missed cut, 17th, missed cut, missed cut. So like I said, Kevin Na is my favorite. Lucas Glover second. Third in that would be Martin Laird. Martin is 20th overall in my stats. First in good driving, though. In this tournament, he's had an 8th, a 64th, and a 3rd. So he plays well here. 44th, 40th, 22nd, and a miscut his last 4 starts. He's a little bit cheaper at 8,600. So those are my top 3 in that tier. Mid-tier, which is 7,000 to 8,000. There's 58 guys jammed into there. I singled out 15 of them. So from 7,900 down to 7,000. I liked Luke List, Sam Saunders, Bryson DeChambeau, Mackenzie Hughes, Martin Flores, Ryan Armour, Smiley Kaufman, Seamus Power, Brandon Hagee, Richie Wierenski, Ricky Barnes, Ryan Blom, Robert Garrigus, Scott Stallings, and Rory Sabatini. My top guy here is Ryan Armour. At 7,500, he's definitely affordable. He's second overall in my stats, second in the field in good drives, third in the field in DraftKings points, fifth in the field in strokes gained on par 5s. He is in pretty good form, a 4th place, 58th, 27th, and miscut his last 4 starts on tour. But his tournament history, 2 missed cuts. There's not really anyone in this tier that has good tournament history. I'm just kind of look through here. Probably the best would be Robert Garrigus if you want to go just off tournament history. He has a 26th, a miscut, and a 12th. I have him 8th out of 15 in this tier. My second guy in this tier would be Smiley Kaufman. I have him 4th overall in the stats. He has a miscut and a 10th. His 2 starts at the Safeway. And his recent form's a bit iffy. Miscut, 27th, 12th, miscut. But he bodes well for this type of course, and he has correlating stats. My third guy in this category would be Seamus Power, 5th overall in the stats. Miscut in his only start at this event, which is a little bit worrisome, but it's only one start. His recent form, he has 3 top 25s in his last 4 starts, a 10th, an 18th, a 25th, and an 83rd. So those are top 3 from that tier. And then in the final tier, under 7,000, these are the bargain basement hunters. If you can get a couple, even one, but if you can get 2 guys in here that get you top 20 finishes, top 30 finishes, you're really going to have a really good chance at making it in the money. So I just had 8 guys that I liked here. Going down from 6,900 down to 6,600, Sung Kang, Vaughn Taylor, Stuart Appleby, Matt Every, Jonas Blixt, Derek Fathauer, KJ Choi, and Peter Malnati. My favorite from this category would be Matt Every. He is in at 6,700. I'm 3rd overall in my stats ranks, 5th in DraftKings points. He has 2 miscuts in his only starts here, but as I know from covering Matt a little bit, he misses a lot of cuts. His MO is generally finish high or miss the cut. He said himself he doesn't care about missing cuts. He just wants to win. So, yeah, as I said, 3rd overall. His recent form is really good. One of the best in the field. 13th, 14th, 61st, and a miscut. But at that price, Matt Every for 6,700, I really like him. Second favorite in this grouping would be Vaughn Taylor at 6,900. He's 15th overall in my stats, but 2nd in strokes gained approach, 6th in good drives. At this course, he has a 15th and a 55th, so a little bit of decent finishes, decent play here. And in recent form, 43rd, 50th, miscut, 19th. They're not the highest finishes, but at least making cuts. The main thing with these guys under 7,000, main thing is making the cut. You can afford to have 1 or 2 guys that just get by the cut and still be in the money if you have guys that are near the top of the leaderboard. So just keep that in mind. You really just want these guys to make it through the weekend. If they do, as I said, finish top 30 or so, you're giving yourself a really, really good chance at the money. So I like Matt Every. I like Vaughn Taylor. Those are my top 2 guys from that tier. Overall, I think my optimal lineup, if you're going to go, you have to fit it all under 50 grand. So if I take those top guys, I think I would, my optimal lineup would be Matt Every, Ryan Armour, Kevin Na, Tony Finau, Robert Garrigus, and Sam Saunders. So that would be that. Good luck with any of your plays. If you have anything else that you'd like me to go over, if you'd like me to kind of show my work, if it's a little confusing, let me know. I'm going to post everything on my blog so you can actually see the numbers I'm talking about, looking at. You can decide for yourself who you like. So that's Teeing Off blog. Just Google it. You can follow me on Twitter at RJMCCULLOUGH. That's RJ McCullough on Twitter. I'm going to tweet this out. I'm going to put the podcast out there. You can follow me on iTunes. It's Teeing Off Podcast. Let me know what you think. We're going to go forward with this DraftKings thing this year, and hoping for the best. Hopefully we can win some money. Hopefully I can help you guys win some money. Again, if there's anything you'd like more of, less of, let me know. I'm open to some feedback. So good luck this week. Safeway Open. We got the first week of the year. Hope it's a good one. Take care.